Hello class, good day. Today we are going to talk about implementing a curriculum daily in classrooms. A daily lesson plan is based on a planned or written curriculum which teachers implement in the classroom. According to the Department Order number 70 series of 2012, all public elementary and secondary school teachers are not required to prepare detailed lesson plans but may adopt daily lesson logs, which contain needed information from the teacher's guide or TG and the teacher's manual or TM. However, for teachers with less than 2 years of teaching experience, they are required to prepare daily lesson plans. This is done, I think, so that the new teachers will be able to master the skill in planning a lesson because you will not become expert teachers if you lack planning. The daily lesson plan should include the objectives, subject matter, procedure, assessment, and assignment. So let's go to number 1. Intended learning outcomes, or we call ILO, or simply put, objectives. They are the focus of the lesson. Learning outcomes are based on taxonomy of objectives presented as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. For the cognitive domain, the Bloom's taxonomy was revised by his students Anderson and Krathwohl. Bloom's taxonomy starts from knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. For the revised version, it starts from remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So you notice that evaluation as the highest thinking skill in Bloom's comes second only to creating in the revised version, which is equivalent to synthesis also in Bloom's. I also agree that creating is the highest thinking skill because creating means children are constructing their own knowledge from what is already known. It is demonstrating innovation and uniqueness about what he learns or what children learn and not copying from previous or others' work. Moreover, the original version is stated as nouns, while the revised version is stated as verb forms, which imply a more active form of thinking. There are actually 3 changes that happened in the revised version. First, changing the names of the categories. Second, rearranging the categories. And third, establishing the levels of knowledge. Now let us study the cognitive categories with example action verbs. First is remembering. Remembering means to recall previously learned information. It is expressed in action verbs like define, identify, label, list, and so on. The next one is understanding. It is comprehending ideas or making meaning expressed in verbs such as comprehend, give example, rewrite, summarize, and the like. Then we have applying. It is using concepts in new situations or applying what has been learned into a new situation. The action words include apply, compute, use, prepare, and solve. The fourth one is analyzing. It is about separating concepts into component parts or distinguishing between facts and inferences. The verbs are break down, compare, contrast, differentiate, or infer. Evaluating is the fourth one. Fifth one. It is making judgments about the value of ideas. It is expressed through the verbs like appraise, criticize, defend, and evaluate. Last is creating. It is building a structure or putting up parts together to form a whole or new meaning. This is expressed in verbs such as compose, design, organize, or revise. In writing objectives, it is recommended that more higher order thinking skills or HOTS should be developed and less of the lower order thinking skills or LOTS. The LOTS or lower order thinking skills include remembering, understanding, and applying, while the HOTS comprises analyzing, evaluating, and creating. There are four levels of knowledge. Factual knowledge. Factual knowledge includes specific data or information. For example, the primary and secondary colors. The next level is conceptual knowledge. It involves facts that are interrelated to function together. An example of a concept or conceptual knowledge is symptoms of exhaustion. The third is procedural knowledge. It refers to how things work, the step-by-step actions or method of inquiry. For example, how to perform CPR. Metacognitive knowledge means awareness of one's own cognition or thinking, or simply thinking about thinking. An example of metacognitive knowledge is what are the strategies in retaining information. The ILO or intended learning outcome should be stated in a SMART manner, which is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. The second part of writing a lesson plan is the subject matter or content. The subject matter comes from the body of knowledge that will be learned through the guidance of the teacher. It is the what in teaching, which is followed by the references. The third element of a lesson plan is the procedure or methods and strategies. The procedure is the crux or the central point of curriculum implementation because how a teacher puts life to the intended learning outcomes or ILO and the subject matter depends on the procedure. There are many ways of teaching for the different kinds of learners. Some are time-tested methods, while others are non-conventional constructivist method. The first example or method is the direct demonstration methods, such as guided exploratory or discovery method. Next is the cooperative learning approaches like the think, pair, share. Then we have the deductive or inductive learning approaches, for example, project method and inquiry-based learning. We also have other approaches like blended learning or reflective learning. But teachers have to take note that in selecting the appropriate teaching method, it should match the learning styles of our students. Students' different learning styles can be based on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. But we also have the very common three types of learning styles which classified students into visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. Visual learners use graphs, charts, and pictures to study or remember things. So for our visual learners in the classroom, we need to prepare colorful pictures to attract their attention and make mind maps and concept maps. Second are the auditory learners. They recall information through hearing and speaking and prefer to be told how to do things. So teachers may prepare recorded lectures just like this one because children can listen to and they can also replay important ideas. You can also do read aloud stories to your children. The third are the kinesthetic learners who prefer hands-on activities and demonstrate how to do things rather than explaining them. Thus, teachers may allow them to do something while learning, just like allowing them to eat while studying. You can also allow them to do field work or do many things at one time. This is an illustration of Edgar Dale's cone of experience. The cone shows that the bottom level, that is the direct purposeful experiences, represent reality or closest to reality. And each level above its base moving upward moves a student a step farther away from reality. What does Edgar Dale's theory imply? The use of direct purposeful experience such as field study, community immersion, or practice teaching retains 90% of learning because direct purposeful experience allows children to use all their senses. This means that the more sensory channels are activated, the better. Second, participation in class discussions such as small group discussion, role play, and reporting, where children have the opportunity to say and write, helps them to remember 70% of learning. Passive participation like watching a movie or a demonstration and viewing exhibits will retain 50% of learning. Learning experiences like looking at pictures or illustration will allow retention of 30%. By listening to lectures, only 20% is remembered, whereas reading or reading activity will only contribute 10% retention.